Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you for joining us for our Wednesday weather update for November the 9th. We are forecasting some windy weather for northern New Zealand and some rain, and we're also forecasting more heavy rain coming back in to the southeastern corner of Australia. Not as bad as it's been, but more rain on the way. Let's have a look at the map. You can see high pressure parked in the Tasman and another high pressure zone out to the east, and this small area of low pressure around northern New Zealand. That's the reason it's been windy since really the end of last week. It's taken a bit of a breather today. For most places in the north, it's sort of calmer through this middle section. You've got the northerlies coming out of the subtropics with that high, and with this other high, a southerly flow coming in. So we're right in the middle, and that's the reason why we're seeing a fair amount of cloud around northern New Zealand. The other big system out here moving into South Australia and Adelaide, you've got windy northerlies coming up and more rain on the way. Not as much as you've been having though, as I said. So this is what we're expecting for the next 5 days in this zone here. We're talking around about anywhere from about 40 millimetres up to about 60 or 70 millimetres coming through, maybe a little bit higher even through the Yarras there, and a little bit more heavy rain coming into the northwestern corner of Tasmania, but that's only about 45, 50 millimetres, so shouldn't be too problematic. Elsewhere, not too bad, but certainly a fair amount of rain going through these inland normally dry areas. Now, northern New Zealand, with that low pressure zone stuck nearby, this is the 2-day rainfall map from Thursday, and the bulk of that rain just touching the eastern side. And this is what we talked about the other day, saying if that high pressure zone in the Tasman just breathes out a little bit further, it'll push more of that rain away, and if the high shrinks, that rain moves a little bit further south. But basically that's where we're expecting it. And up here there could be close to 100 millimetres around Whangarei and also over there around Gisborne. So that's a lot of rain coming through in just a couple of days. Here's how we look as we go through the Thursday lunchtime in New Zealand, 10 o'clock in the morning in Sydney, air pressure map, and you can see that large pool of low pressure stretching down. So that small area of low pressure has sort of been absorbed back into that main northern area of low pressure, and that means the windy easterlies come back as the high pressure zone in the Tasman slides across the South Island, and windy northerlies over here across Victoria, New South Wales, and even getting into Tasmania and ACT to some degree. As we get into Friday, look at that low pressure zone, not very deep at 1007, so it's not a storm. That's not what we're focused on. We're focused on the squash zone between that area of low pressure here and the high pressure belt down around the South Island and out here around the Chatham Islands. So gale force northeasterlies or easterlies are possible from northern parts of Coromandel Peninsula and Auckland up to about Whangarei. That's the area where it'll be especially windy on Friday, and the rain. Further down the country, northerlies or northeasterlies and a bit cloudy for those of you in the east. Let's have a look at this animation from Predict Wind. This shows the windiest weather, the gales in this red shading. So we're going through Friday here, and as we go through Friday, you can see the time zone in the left-hand corner. But what you're looking for is that red, and it changes shape as we go through Friday and in towards Friday night, and this is overnight Friday now into Saturday morning. That area of low pressure is still sticking around, and it's changing the airflow. So what this basically says is Friday is windy, and then Saturday it calms right down. The windy weather now on Saturday is out to sea. So let's take a look at Saturday. Here you can see that windy northerly flow pushed out to sea, and we've got showers left over. Now some of those showers will be heavy in the afternoon with isolated thunderstorms. That's because we've got that humid sort of light nor'wester and that low pressure sitting nearby. So there could be some large sunny dry spells, and then suddenly some clouds build up and you get a downpour. And in Australia, that low pressure zone finally moving into Adelaide with rain. Now on Sunday, plenty of wet weather pushing in across that southeastern corner of Australia. And in New Zealand, more afternoon downpours bubbling up, mostly inland. It won't be raining everywhere you see blue, but the darker the blue is, the more likely there is to be a downpour. And you'll notice that a lot of that is around the hills and ranges inland around the country. Now next week kicks off with, well, not a great deal of change. Still a fair amount of high pressure in the New Zealand area, but look at this big system. This is a storm down here in the Southern Ocean, and that's sending up a colder, windier sou'west change for that southeastern corner of Australia. And our final map for Tuesday next week shows wintry weather returning briefly for a time. There might even be snow back on the mountains and ranges of Tasmania in the middle of November. And on the New Zealand side, warm nor'westers are starting to come back on Tuesday next week. And we've still got low pressure stuck up here in the tropics, but so far, no storms, no tropical cyclones or anything like that. That's all from me. We'll be back again tomorrow with the next update.